like, yeah, I would like to thank you once again for accepting our invitation. And now over to you, Guru sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. So, without wasting the time, as Dr. Shendra sir said, we will give more time to our resource person, today's speaker, Dr. Ravikiran R Garaje sir, and sir will talk on privatization of banks, Boon and Bane. So, नेमकं प्रायव्हेटायझेशन, बँकेचं प्रायव्हेटायझेशन हे आपल्यासाठी शाप आहे की वरदान आहे, या संदर्भात सरांनी आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करावं अशी मी विनंती करतो.
Thank you. So, with your permission, kind permission, we can start now. I will share my PPT. So, I am not claiming that I am the very expert person. I am just like you only. But some of the thoughts we can share and we can increase our knowledge. So this is our topic, privatization of bank. I think that you can see my PPT. PPT this time, no?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So privatization of banks, Boon or Bane, that this is the topic given by Chandra Sir, and this is a relevant topic actually. Because now you may be knowing that in the recent budget, your said that we are going to now privatize our society and some of the banks also. So whether we should go for the privatization or not, that you only decide at the end after going through this all the PPT. Okay. So putting my own views on that will not be justified. Okay. So let's see that what you all also feel that. So first we'll go to what is the bank do. Okay, you know that very well. Bank is different, finance institution is different, finance company is different, development institutions are different. So when we talk about that, we should have some little idea about what the bank does. Bank is what which are going to lend money and which is accepting the deposit from the public. If these two activities, if they are doing it, apart from the many other activities, they can be called as a bank. Now, for example, now if you just compare with the finance company, the finance company may be lending the money, but they are not allowed what accepting the deposit from the public. Or take the post office, they may be accepting the deposit from the public, but they are not allowed to lend the money. But in near future, and the post office also can be becoming the bank. Okay, and if you go through all the banking activities, they are regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. That is why we have what now scheduled bank, scheduled commercial bank, that can be divided into what private commercial bank, nationalized commercial bank, and commercial. So when we talk about these all kind of the bank, we see that how this bank will be playing the important role. If you just go to the bank or visit some of the villages, we find that we don't have a banking institution. Maybe having the post office, but I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah.
Gure sir, unmute the rest of the participants.
That will be better.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever you want to ask me some question, you can unmute yourself, doesn't matter. But now if we continue smoothly, that will be better. Yeah. So if you just see that in villages, we don't have the financial institutions, we don't have the development institutions, we have the post office. But what we found that post office is just accepting the deposit. They are not lending the money. Then whenever you want to borrow money, the rural people will be borrowing from the money lenders. And the money lenders will be charging huge amount of the interest that you may remember that almost 96% interest rate they're charging it. And that is one of the reasons what you can see that the farmers, they borrow from the money lenders, not able to pay later on. They are forced to make suicides and all. So in that situation, this role of the nationalized banks is very important. Now, nationalized bank means what that, and private bank means what that, foreign bank means what that you know very well. When we talk about the nationalized bank, maximum shareholding is by the government. Maximum means what? Whenever you have the shareholding more than 50%, you can control the management. That way, we see that nationalized bank maximum shareholding is the government, and remaining if some shareholding is there, that is public. If you are buying the shares of that nationalized bank, SBI, Canara Bank, you are buying some shares of that. But entire holding, what you can say that it is with the government 50% and more, and some few percentage by public. And when we talk about the privatization of this same nationalized bank, it means what that government is reducing their shareholding from 50% to less than 50%. Means they will be allowing the private people to subscribe the shares and debentures of that particular nationalized bank. So that way you found that control and management of the what was there by the government, that will go to what private management. Private management will be what controlled by shareholders like you and me, whoever are buying that share. Okay, so this is the case what we can talk about the privatization. Privatization it does not mean that some of the big industries will be buying that particular nationalized bank. It won't be like that. Okay, now you may think that like recently in the Air India, it was nationalized airlines initially, but now we found that the shares has been purchased by the entirely Tata, and we have sold it to Tata. So that won't happen in case of what when we talk about the privatization of the bank. Okay, so that is why we have to be very careful when we talk about the privatization of banks will be side effect for the economy or what, and that we'll see later. Okay, let's go further. Some disturbances are coming. I think that some people have to mute themselves.
These all are requested to mute because here not getting the option.
Lots of noise is coming to my side.
You are clear, sir. Your voice is clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's move further. So, I told you what is the bank. Okay. So when I say that the bank means what, that they will be accepting deposit and also lending money. Okay, and that role has been played by all kind of the private sector banks, foreign banks, and nationalized banks, and also the cooperative banks. Whatever the cooperative bank you see, they also play the same kind of the role. Now, what is the profits the banks are making? That also you should know that credit money generation and the profit making of the bank. That also you should know that. Then only you will know that how the role of the bank is important. Well, suppose that there is only one bank in your economy, and that bank is accepting the deposit from public, and they are only lending it. Okay. Suppose you can say that the one bank is, you just name XYZ bank, is accepting 100 crore rupees of deposit from the public. And from that 100 crore rupees, they can create the credit money depending upon that credit multiplier, okay, and depending upon the borrowing from the public. So they can create the almost what 1,000 crore rupees from that just 100 rupees deposit. You just imagine that 100 crore rupees deposit, suppose they are giving 7% interest to the public, and they are creating that 1,000 crore rupees from that and lending that 1,000 crore rupees and charging some commercial interest rate of suppose something like 18%. You just imagine that in 1 year, whatever the deposit they have taken from the public, more than the deposit amount, they will be just earning interest. Yeah, please.
Sir, slides are not moving.
Yeah. I will be moving it because I just want to explain them what is bank. Okay. That is why I'm stayed there only. So this way you will find that banking business, no doubt, can be the profitable. So in that profitable business, some regulation should be there, and that regulation has been put by regulatory authority, that is Reserve Bank of India. So RBI, as per the 1935 RBI Act, and also the Banking Act 1959, they will be what regulating banking activities in India. So all the private banks, foreign banks, and nationalized banks, all are regulated by RBI. They are also called what scheduled commercial banks. Yeah, let's move to the further. So if we see that how we started the nationalization of the banks, you can just see that on July 19, 1969, 14 largest private banks first we have nationalized. And then again in 1980, 6 more banks has been nationalized. Before this nationalization process, if you just go through it, what was the situation in India? You will find that whatever the banks were there, that all private banks and also few foreign banks, they were already concentrating only the urban area. And if you talk about the foreign bank, they just concentrate in metro major cities, like what they were situated in Mumbai city, Kolkata, Madras, and Delhi. And they never had the branches, the remaining places in India, foreign bank. Now also, if you just see that, foreign banks are concentrated in major cities only, metropolitan cities, you can say that. So you may not, yeah, you may not find that the branches are available in the district places, other district places. We have almost what 600 districts in India. So in that all 600 districts, we find that almost what 10 major cities, they may be concentrating foreign banks. They're not catering what small towns and cities and villages at all. Then come to the private banks like ICICI, SDFC, they are all called what private banks. Why? Because the shareholding of the government is not there. Okay, so sufficient amount of the shareholding what is required, that is not there. But definitely the public shareholding like you and me are having the shareholding on the private banks. Okay, so as a shareholder, you may be what controlling this private bank, no doubt at all. So what you found that in these private banks also, they don't have the branches in the rural area. They may be concentrated only in the urban area, only in the major cities. So yeah, I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
So they are concentrated only the urban area. Now just go back to before 1969. What was the situation? Before 1969, all the banking sectors were the private sector and the foreign sector bank. Nationalization of the bank was not there, and they were catering only the urban area and only the metro city. They were giving the loan to the generally large scale industries, okay, and small scale industries were not catered by them, okay, and the profitable business activities they used to cater. There was no question of what lending money to agriculture sector or rural area by this all private banks before 1969. And you are talking about what we want the faster growth of the economy, we want to reduce the income inequality, we want to reduce the poverty, we want to develop agriculture sector, we want to develop small scale industries, we want to develop your export sector. That was not possible if you don't have the credit available. And that was the reason what we found that our ex-Prime Minister Indira Gandhi taken a decision after concerning with the economists and policymakers that we should nationalize some of the big private banks, okay, so that we can lend money to this major sectors like you can say that small scale industries, tiny industries, small business activities, export sectors, and also what agriculture sector. So that was the reason, and with that reason we have taken a decision of what 14 initially large private banks with 100 crore rupees and more, okay, and then another 6 banks that has been nationalized. Total what 20 banks has been nationalized. In that 20 banks, you may remember that what are the banks are there. SBI is the largest bank, Canara Bank is there, PNB is there, okay, our own Bank of Maharashtra is also there. So these all are what almost 20, and now later that become 26. They are what nationalized banks. So these nationalized banks, if we see the growth, what they have done it, the major thing is that they expanded their branches to the rural India. Now, initially, what was there in the private sector, they were concentrated metro cities. So now this nationalized bank started expanding the branches in the most of the part of the India, particularly rural India, and that growth we can see. If you some of the slides I will show you. Yeah, how the branches has been expanded. Then we'll come back again later. Look here now, branch expansion of the scheduled commercial banks. If you just see that, so you will find that bank branches has expanded like anything. That is after what you can say 1969 onwards. Before that, it was almost you can see in this slide was 5,000 somewhere. But after that, you can see that at present almost 1,42,000 bank branches are there, and almost 36% branches are there in the rural India. That is only because of what? Nationalized banks that has catered about the rest part of the India. Now, why we should consider about bank branches which should spread to the rural area? That also you should know that. Look here, if the rural area, if we see, the credit is needed, and that credit, whatever the borrowing has been done in the rural area, we found that they are borrowing from the local money lenders. Popularly in Maharashtra, they are known as the Saukars, Patil, Deshmukh, and all. Okay, so and whenever they are borrowing money from this local money lenders, you know that the interest rate is very high, almost 96%. And when they are lending that money, they will be mortgaging some kind of the asset. Maybe the land has been mortgaged, maybe gold jewelry has been mortgaged. Okay, and on that basis they will be lending the money. And then what we found that because of the huge amount of the interest rate, and similarly you found that because of uncertainty in the nature, generally most of the farmers are not able to repay that money to the local money lenders, and some kind of the incidents happens, like what suicide cases are and all. Okay, no doubt, despite this nationalization of the banks, some cases are still there. But if you just see that credit expansion of the nationalized bank, that taken care of more of such need of the rural borrowing. So what we found that this nationalized banks, also the private and the foreign banks, has been guided by the banking regulation activities. We said that we should lend almost what 40% of our overall amount of the lending purpose money to the what priority sector. And that priority sector, we found that agriculture is one of the things, small scale industry is there, the export sector is there, and small business activity is also there. So under that priority sector lending, we found that most of these nationalized banks were trying to lend money to the farmers in rural area and the small scale industry, tiny industry, small business activities, etc. So no doubt they are helping to develop our backward areas, backward sectors, and also the rural areas in our economy. But recently, what we are talking about that we should again privatize them. Why that we should privatize and all that we have to see. What is the reason we found that we are talking about privatize them, and why such kind of situation should be there? That is also we need to consider. Yeah. So if you just see that some of the data here, class banking also a reason what we are talking about it. The share of the agriculture in credit was just 2% in 1951, remain unchanged in 1967. Okay, whereas the share of the industry increased from 34% in 1951 to 64% in 1967. So this is before the nationalization of the commercial bank. So you must have seen that from this data, means agriculture sector was just neglected area. We see a similar picture in the bank branches as well. Banks had increased branches from the 4,000 in 1950 to around 7,000 in 1967 before the nationalization. But the share of the rural and the semi-urban branches remained similar at 61%. The share of the urban branches increased from 36% in 1950 to 39% in 1967. It means what that rural branches were completely neglected here. So this data is showing that how the growth was there in the banking sectors in India before the nationalization. It means what that we just concentrated about what urban area and not the rural area. So these are the nationalized banks. You can see that Bank, Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, Central Bank of India, Canara Bank, Dena Bank, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Punjab and National Bank, Syndicate Bank, UCO Bank, Union Bank, United Bank of India, that all are what? Nationalized banks. And the remaining 6 banks which are there, what? You can see that Punjab and Sindh Bank, Vijaya Bank, Oriental Bank of India, Corporate Bank, Andhra Bank, and the New Bank of India, etc. Okay.
Sir,
So,
excuse me.
yeah, please.
Garaje sir.
Huh.
Gore sir.
Sir.
Yes, sir, please. Some disturbances are.
Sir, Garaje sir. Sir, please, now you again unmute yourself because I made mute to everyone.
Yeah, I hope I'm audible now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So look here, why we are talking about now to nationalize that bank. That point we should consider now. If you just see that in budget 2019, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has announced a proposal of infusion of 70,000 crore rupees into the public sector banking activity. Now, why the government need to pump such amount of the money? Time to time they have done it. Almost every budget, some amount of the money has been pumped in the nationalized bank. The reason is that non-performing assets. Now, non-performing asset is what? Whenever these banking sectors are lending money, they are keeping some criteria within that particular month or particular year. That much of the money should come back with interest, with principal. Okay, that is the criteria. But when you found that that money is not coming, forget about the principal, interest amount is also not coming. Then the bank have to declare that that kind of the loan as what? Non-performing asset. So this non-performing asset was increasing in the nationalized bank. And this is one of the reasons what we can see that the government has been forced to think about what, why not privatize them? So that every year, whatever the money government is allocating for this nationalized bank, which can be reduced. For example, recently 70,000 crore rupees government is putting into the nationalized banks so that they can be bailed out from this non-performing asset. Yeah, let's move further. Yeah, so this is the schedule of all the banking sectors in India. Yeah.
So slides are not moving.
Now, again, I have to share or what?
No, it's a sharing one, but
now this is the second slide.
It is on the first slide only.
Acha, it should not be. Then just once again. I will stop and then I will start. It in my place. It is moving. Just 1 minute. I will do that.
Yes, sir. It's
now it's moving.
Yes, it's right.
Yeah. So the last time I told you that how this before the nationalization of the banks, how the bank branches has increased just 4,000 to 7,000, and then rural sector we found that very minutely it has increased, and the share of the agriculture credit is very minute. Okay, this despite development of the economy before the nationalization that I told you in this slide. Then we moved in this slide and we have seen that what kind of the nationalized banks are there that you can see here, Allahabad Bank, Bank of Baroda and all. Then we have just said that in recent budget in 2019, government has given almost 70,000 crore rupees to nationalized banks that we have seen. And then I spoke to about what? Non-performing assets of the this banking sector, particularly nationalized bank, is increasing day by day. Okay, that I just spoke about that. And what is the non-performing asset? I told you, when you found that your loan amount is not recoverable, your interest and principal amount is not recoverable, and within that a certain given time period, then that kind of the loan is known as a bad loan or bad debt, and that can be called as what? Non-performing asset in short. Okay, and this slide you can see that all the bank can be divided into scheduled commercial bank, scheduled cooperative banks and all. Okay, and this scheduled commercial bank, you have what? Public sector bank, private sector, foreign banks, and regional rural banks. Almost 176 regional rural banks we have it. And nationalized bank, you can see that State Bank of India has a major role. And private sector bank, you can see that old private sector banks are there and the new private sector banks also there. Yes Bank is the new private sector banks. Yeah. So this slide also we have seen. So bad loans written up in the public sector banks, you can just imagine that how much money we are returning up every year. Just you can see here, 2001, 5,000 crore rupees has been written up. This government has given that amount, 2,000 to 6,000 crore rupees. Okay, and that amount has increased in 2019 almost what 1,96,000 crore rupees. So you just imagine that when this money is coming from the government budget, so it is more burden to the not only the government but also to the taxpayers, because taxpayers' money or you and my money is used for what, to bail out these public sector banks because they are making huge amount of the losses. So ultimately, what you found that we people are paying that money. Even though you can see that the government is paying to this public sector bank, but ultimately it is money is going from our package. So should we pay that money from our tax amount or non-tax amount, etc., to this bad bank? That you have to decide. When you found that so many banking frauds are taking place in our country. No, look here, this banking fraud is not only taking place in the nationalized bank, it is also taking place in the private banks and foreign banks. But amount of that frauds are more in case of what you can say that nationalized bank. Let's move now to next slide. I hope that my slides are moving. Huh? Yeah, now you just see that.
Yes.
You can see that when we talk about the nationalized banks, what is the major shareholders, who are the major players, and that all you can see that. You can see here public sector banks, the major shareholders, almost more than 50% shareholding is by the government of India. So that is why the government of India will be controlling the management. So all the employees recruitment and everything will be done by the government of India. But there are other major players also, like this SBI, PNB, Canara Bank, Bank of India. These are also nationalized banks, not at all different from that. Okay, but the common public also will be holding the shares of this all the nationalized banks. And the private sector banks, the major shareholders is private sectors. Okay, more than 50% shareholding is by the private sector. And in case of foreign sector, foreign banks, it is a foreign will be entities will be holding the shares. And rural banks, you know that will be shareholded by the central government and also the state government, and then some of the national banks will be holding the shares of the regional rural banks. We have almost what 179 regional rural banks. If we just talk about the shareholding, we found that 50% by the central government, 15% is by the state government, and nationalized banks will be holding almost 35% of the shareholding. And if you just go through the performance of the regional rural bank, it is a worst situation. Cooperative banks and regional rural banks is worst situation, and that is why most of the regional rural banks and also the cooperative banks, you can see that they're at the verge of the collapsing situation. So some of the regional rural banks you can see here: Andhra Pradesh Gramin Vikas Bank, Uttaranchal Gramin Bank. That all. Let's move to the next slide. Yeah, you can see now number of branches. In 1969, number of branches were this much, 8,200. Okay, and now we have almost 1,56,000 branches. Branches in the rural India and semi-urban area also you can see. Before the nationalization, it was nil. Now 95,000 branches are there in the rural and semi-urban area. And priority sector lending was not there at all. Means priority sector lending means what that? Lending decided by the government policy, and RBI will be guiding them that you should keep in total lending amount. If suppose that you are lending 100 crore rupees, in that 100 crore rupees, 40% is lending you should be giving to what? Priority sectors. Okay, means agriculture sector, small scale industries, tiny business activities, and export sectors. So that will be given in priority sector lending. So you find that before nationalization, no priority sector was there, but after nationalization, 40% has been decided, and that 40% is also is common for all the banks, private sector, nationalized bank, and the foreign sector. But what happened that when you say that 40% priority sector lending, these foreign banks are not at all catering rural India. They're not giving money to what agriculture sector. Similarly, private sectors also neglecting the what most of the loss-making agriculture sector, loss-making what you can say that priority sector they are neglecting. So ultimately, what we want, the burden will be coming to the nationalized banks only. That is why one of the reason is that non-performing asset, the nationalized bank is very high compared to the private sector and then foreign sector. You can just see that what is about the deposits. Deposit amount also has increased from 1,000 crore to more than 130 lakh crore rupees. And the loan amount also has increased from 424 crores to almost what 101 lakh crore rupees in this all banking sector. Bank expansion that already we have seen it. So no need to see this again. This is all taken from the website only. You can also access it. Yeah. So priority sector lending, you can see here where we are giving the money, that 40% lending we are talking about it. No? So agriculture sector is there, small scale industries, small road and water transportation, professional and self-employed, retail trade loans, educational loan, housing loan, consumption loan, state sponsored corporation for SCSTs, and other recommended priority sectors. So these are the 10 priority sectors you can see here. So you found that if urban area, they are catering that priority sector lending, they may be focusing more about the housing loan, consumption loan, educational loan, like that. Wherever they find that losses will be less, that they will be catering foreign banks and private sector banks. But this agriculture sector, small scale industries, tiny business activities, that has been neglected by them. Yeah, let's move further. This chart, it can you can see that public sector bank loans to weaker sections as percentage of the ANBC, all banking activities. You can see that public sector banks is playing major role here. But after 2009 onwards, the share is not that much. It has, you can say that decline. But private sector loans is much more there. After 2009 onwards, you can see that. So this chart also may be helping us whether we should go for the privatization of the national banks or not. Yeah, here you can see that the sectoral contribution percentage in to the GDP in 1947. So you can see in this chart, services sector almost constant, higher level in this all 1950-51 to 2010-11. Industrial sector lending is declining, but service sector is almost remain same. And agriculture sector also has a decline drastically recently. So now again, you can see this below chart, sectoral credit flow since bank nationalization 1969. Okay, you can see that in services sector, it is increased slightly and then declining later on. And then industrial sector, it's slightly declining shape, and agriculture sector, you found that it has not increased much more. Okay, and it is below 20% only, and it's steadily declined to 10% that you can see here in this chart. Yeah, let's move further. So why the NPA occurring, that you also know very well. These are some of the reasons why the non-performing asset, NPA, non-performing asset of the bank, means they are not able to recover their loan amount. So interest amount and the principal amount, they are not able to recover. So these are the reasons. You can see that bad lending practices. So means what? Suppose that you may be knowing the urban area. The housing purpose loan is given. So housing purpose loan, when the bank is giving, you just what neglected that verification report and given to that person who is not able to repay in future. Okay, that agent may be involved and he will be sanctioning such kind of the loans, and you found that the bad lending practices can be the one of the reason why you found that money is not coming back. When bank neglect basic factors like repaying capacity, etc. When they neglect, then we found that such kind of the problem will come. You may remember that subprime crisis in USA. that in that situation, that case, you found that the housing purpose loan has been given by the banking sector in USA to these people who are not able to repay also the loan, and that has created that biggest banking crisis in 2008 in USA, and which spread to the all over the world. Another reason is competition. When banks compete among themselves and provide unsecured loans. So you wanted to create more business activity, because you know that if you lend more money, you can make more profit. If you lend less money, you will be making less profit. So that is why each banks will be competing to each other. They will be trying to cater more and more customers, clients, and that is why you found that they will be calling you, telling you that you take this loan and that loan, we will give you the credit card, etc. You open the zero balance account and all that. You know, that is the reason is competition. Unhealthy competition also can be creating what? Increasing non-performing assets. Incremental components, when internal banks management like credit policy, etc. is affected, that also will be creating what? Non-performing assets. Overhang components, when environmental factors, they are also will be the reason of what? Non-performing asset. Crisis, when banking sector witnesses lower than average rate of the revenues and profit, that case also we found that non-performing asset will be increasing. For example, after the demonetization, and also the after introduction of this GST system, and in this lockdown time period also, we found that the bank came into what? Crisis situation, and that crisis situation also we found that non-performing asset of this all kind of the banks will be increasing. So when we talk about non-performing asset here, all kind of the banks, but definitely public sector banks or the nationalized bank, that NPA is much more higher compared to the foreign banks and the private banks. Yeah, let's move further. In this chart, you can see that gross non-performing asset of the public and the private banks. You can clearly see that in 2013. Okay, the private bank non-performing asset is this blue color chart, and the public sector banks is this orange color chart. You can see that, and how that has increased substantially. You can see that in the private sector banks, NPA has not increased substantially. It is very much controlled one. But in the public sector banks or the nationalized bank, you can just imagine that how much it has rapidly increased in these years. So 2013 onwards, there is a big jump in the non-performing asset of the nationalized bank. So it is a worrisome situation. Yeah, let's move further. So NPA contributors, you can see here, SBI, you can see almost what this 36%, 400, no? If you talk about, and the ICICI Bank 9%, and the other major public sector banks is 51%. You just imagine that this SBI plus these other nationalized banks, if you just consider 51% plus 36%, so you will find that there is huge amount of the NPA contributed by this nationalized bank only. So private sector contribution is almost negligible. ICICI is 9%, and the other major private sector banks is just 4%. Okay, so you may remember that in 90s, ICICI was in almost a collapsible situation. But now very much control NPA is there in overall NPA contribution of all the banking sectors. Yeah, let's move further. I hope my slides are moving now. Gure sir?
Yes, sir.
So you can see this RBI's financial stability report. Gross NPAs of the banks, you can see here. These are the public sector banks, private sector banks, foreign banks, and all scheduled commercial banks. You can see that. If you just take this public sector banks and private sector banks and then foreign banks, you will find that foreign banks NPA amount is much more lesser compared to private sector banks and then nationalized banks. Nationalized banks that not performing asset is very high, more than 12%. And recently September 21, it has reached to the 17%. COVID reason is one of the reasons what we can give here. Let's move further. Yeah. So PSU banks account for what maximum frauds you can see here. You can see the slide. 90% fraud is responsible because of what government banks and nationalized banks, and the contribution of other banks, you can see that almost negligible amount. Okay, so that's fraud. Recent data only you can see here: loan sanction and the card and internet the amount of fraud, deposit frauds, checks and demand draft frauds. Okay, these are all the frauds taken together. So in that all frauds, we found that contribution from the nationalized banks is very high. So 90% fraud is happening in the public sector banks, and what is a serious matter. So you have to just consider about whether we should nationalize or not. Okay, yeah, let's move further. This fellow, you know that very well, Vijay Mallya, and what kind of the scam he has done. Almost 9,000 crore rupees, and still he is not captured by our system. Okay, we found that he is freely moving. Actually, he should be, if he was in the India, he must be in the jail. Now we found that he is freely moving in UK, and similarly, you know this fellow also. Okay, so this is the Vijay Mallya, you know very well, and this is your Nirav Modi. So you found that they made a very high amount of the banking frauds. Before that, also we have the many frauds taken place in banking activity. That you must have seen that Harshad Mehta scam, who is also responsible for duping your State Bank of India at that time period. Yeah, let's move further. Ketan Parekh scam. He was also responsible for the making fraud in the nationalized banks only. Let's move further. Yeah, so money lost amount you can see here. Public sector banks, you can just imagine that how much money has lost. Okay, in brackets, number of frauds, you can see that how much fraud took place. Okay, and public sector banks, financial institutions, total include frauds reported at small finance banks, payment banks, and local area banks that you can see here. So in these years, how much has been lost that you can see clearly. Yeah, let's move to the next slide. Yeah, so here you can see here spike in number of frauds since 2017-18 that has increased much more compared to the previous years. You just you can compare that UPA government and the NDA government. Okay, you just take this borderline 2014-15. I don't want to make the political statement here, but you can see that how the number of frauds and the has increased and how much money we have lost. That you can see here. Sharp increase you can see here 2016-17 onwards. Okay, and only in the 1920 and 2021 it stabilized at very high level. This all data is available on internet. Let's move further. Yeah, so this paper also is showing you that Mumbai is the #1 for the banking fraud in the country. So obviously you know that why is Mumbai the #1, because it's financial capital of our country. So maximum banking sectors head offices are here, financial institutions, development institutions, they have the head offices. Even the medium and large scale industries head offices are located in Mumbai city. So maximum borrowing takes place at exporters and the big industries and the medium scale industries. Even the small scale industry will be borrowing huge amount of the money here. So that is why you found that Mumbai is the #1 for the banking fraud in the country. Okay, so it is not necessarily that Mumbai people are fraud, that is why the number is more. No, not at all. Because these all institutions are located in numbers more, and the borrowers are also located with their head offices in Mumbai. That is why you can see that these cases are more in the Mumbai city. So that figure you can see, just see cases reported, money lost, money recovered. Look, money recovered is how much? Just 63 crore rupees, very less amount when they have lended a huge amount of the thousands of the crore. Yeah. Then second numbers come to Delhi and then Chennai and then Calcutta and then Bangalore, that you can see from this chart. Yeah, let's move further. So market share of the loan outstanding, you can see that market share of the active loans also you can see here in this data. So loan outstanding, market share, active loans. If you just see that market share of the loan outstanding in this blue color, the banks is very high compared to non-banking financial companies, this microfinance companies, etc. Non-profit microfinance companies, completely negligible amount. So that is why we can also think about whether we should promote this microfinance companies and lend more money from the microfinance companies. Recovery rate is very high for them. That microfinance, you may be knowing that the concept has been promoted from the Bangladesh by Nobel Prize winner economist, Muhammad Bane. So we can think about that in India also, because the recovery rate is very high. Let's move further. So that you can see from the Times of India how the nationalization of the private banks has been started in 1969. And now we are talking about whether we should again privatize this nationalized bank to the private one. Okay, we look here, you just see that what is the disinvestment amount. We are talking about 1.75 lakh crore rupees is the target, disinvestment target for financial year 22. So we also thinking about what that government had in August 2019 merged 10 public sector banks into 4, which brought down their total to the 12 to the from the 27 bank branches, public sector banks. You can see that. Yeah. So let's move further. Yeah. Now these are some of the think tanks what they're talking about if we want to privatize our nationalized bank. So Raghuram Rajan, you know very well, ex-RBI Governor of India, who is saying that if we are moving to sell our government banks, that is the biggest mistake we are going to make. Why he's saying that? You know it very well, because priority sector lending and that most vulnerable sectors in our country, that agriculture sector, rural India, if we are not able to lend them, then they may not be growing. We're not giving them chance to grow. And that will be the biggest problem. You know, just imagine that if we privatize this nationalized bank, so already the private sectors are not lending money, and in the future, if this nationalized banks which become the private bank, definitely they will neglect agriculture sector, rural area, because the default cases are higher. They don't want to lend such kind of the loss-making, uncertain business activities. So you can think about that. What Raghuram Rajan is saying, that definitely in the future, if we privatize this nationalized bank, maybe we are going to make a colossal mistake, the biggest mistake we can be making. Then come to the another view, D. Subbarao, another RBI governor. He is thinking that if we privatize them, then we will be reducing non-performing assets. That will be lesser burden on our economy. Okay, and that may help the economy to grow in the future. That is his view. Okay, so the both views, you can just think about it. Both are the RBI governors. You know it very well. Ex-RBI governors. Okay, yeah. Let's move further. Yeah, you can see that why this employees are opposing the privatization of the nationalized bank. That is a simple reason, because if you privatize them, so that job will be coming into the problem for them. Job security will not be there in the private sectors. So you may find that they can be fired out immediately from the job. But then again, the point comes here that if you just visit the nationalized banks and then private bank, okay, and then you will find that what is the environment there, how the employees are behaving. You find that private banks employees will be more friendly, customer friendly, but nationalized banks, you don't find that kind of customer friendly behavior of these employees. Maybe the reason that they are protected by government policy and their jobs are protected, so they are becoming too lazy, and that may be increasing their inefficiency. and reducing the productivity. So why not then privatize them if we want efficiency and productivity can be increased in private sector banks? That is the idea here. But now how to secure and this employees opposition? You may be knowing that in the 90s also we started this privatization process. That time period we have given golden handshake to the banking sectors and public sector organization. The same thing again they can do that. They can give the golden handshake, means they can give use attractive VRS package, voluntary retirement package to them, so that many of surplus labors can be removed from the banking sectors and most efficient people can be remaining in that sector. Okay, and what happened that if they have been privatized, then management can get the liberty to appoint the people who are more efficient, who have the management degrees and all, who have the skills. They can appoint them, and they may increase their efficiency and productivity. So this is one of the thing what we can see that. So immediately the government will find that privatization is not so easy, because employees will be coming on road and there will be the problem. You can see that the state government bus employees, state transportation bus employees, after more than 2 months, or they are still demanding that they should be merged with the government of Maharashtra, and government of Maharashtra completely neglecting and denying that things. Despite the government has given wage hike, they still are sticking to that. Means such kind of a situation can come in the future if we talk about what privatization of this nationalized banks. So you decide privatization of the public sector bank should be there or not. Look at now, this entire environment shows that if the maximum 90% frauds are taking place in public sector banks, okay, now maximum non-performing asset is related with public sector banks or nationalized banks. So you may think that this public sector banks should be privatized. But is there any solution if we continue them as a nationalized banks and reduce that frauds, and then also what we can say that they will be catering to the priority sector lending in future? That also we have to see whether NPA can be reduced of this nationalized bank. That also we have to see that any method can be there, that we have to find out. So current situation, we can just see that these nationalized banks are not in good shape. If just imagine that if the government in any budget say that they are not going to bail them out, so this nationalized bank may collapse anytime. Like you must have seen that any public sector industries, when the government has not given enough amount to modernize them and then expand their business activities, such public sector organization has completely collapsed. If this kind of things happen to these nationalized banks also in future, then you may find that we may be just allowing them to kill and die themselves. So if we want to keep them alive in future, so one of the major may be the privatization. With privatization, with public like you and me who are buying the shares of such banks and bringing the efficiency and productivity, they may survive in the future. So that can be also possibility. But how we can increase the lending in the priority sector? That will be the big question mark. Means your rural economy, agriculture sector, small scale industries, tiny sector may be neglected, and there will be again, you may find that local money lenders, saukars, they may be actually dominating in that sectors, and that may be increasing unemployment, income inequality. That side effects also will be there. So we have to think both the ways, and then have to find out the proper solution. Okay, we just cannot say that all kind of the nationalized banks should be privatized. We may think about that, whether we can privatize or we can merge some of the loss-making private nationalized banks into some strong banks and try to increase the efficiency and productivity of this nationalized bank by giving them some kind of the autonomy. So such kind of a solution we have to find out. Let's move further. So this is all about what I wanted to talk about, what nationalization of the banks and all. So this session is open for the any questions and doubts.
It's a very nice presentation, sir. We got a very deep knowledge. Why should not be the privatization, and why should be the privatization? So
Yeah.
both the ways you analyze this. So if any doubt to any participant, this session
please.
is open for you.
Yeah, the discussion is open. This is I told you that now you people will be more talented because of you have the guru, internet guru, you have it. Okay, so I am just giving the logical idea about whether we should go for the privatization of the nationalized banks or not. So both the sides we can talk about that. If we say that privatization, the side effects are there. Okay, and if we want to go for the just continue at the nationalization of that bank, we found that NPA will be increasing, frauds will be increasing. So we need to find out some solution for that. Yeah, please. You can unmute and ask me the questions. Or anybody's charting. That also is. You can ask in Marathi language also, in Marathi, Hindi language, no problem at all.
Sir, one question is there in the chat box.
Yeah, just I will check. Yeah. So do you think that privatization is the way forward since it is lesser loss making in comparison to the public sector banks? Look here, now here only the problem comes. The problem comes means what that when we privatize this nationalized bank, then who are going to provide the loan to the some of the important priority sectors, with agriculture sector, okay, small scale industries, tiny sector, who are going to lend that money? Private sector, we found that at present situation, despite we kept that 40% priority sector lending compulsory to this foreign bank, to the private bank, we found that they completely neglected the agriculture sector, rural India, and only the nationalized bank has catered them. So if we privatize these nationalized banks also, you just imagine that what will happen to this rural economy and the agriculture sector. Already you may be knowing that almost 2,500 farmers has made suicide this year in Maharashtra itself. And most of the reasons we found that that is because of they are not able to repay their loan amount. And that most of the borrowing is coming from what? The local money lenders. So that they were not able to borrow from the public sector banks. The reason is that they have defaulted their previous loan to the public sector banks, okay, with nationalized bank. And because of that default, the new loan they were not able to get from this nationalized bank. So we found that ultimately they were forced to borrow money from the money lenders, local money lenders, with the 96% and more interest rate, with unfavorable terms and conditions. So you just imagine that whatever the money they used to borrow from this nationalized bank now, that much money also they may not be able to borrow in future. And that 2,500 farmers who made suicide cases recently in Maharashtra, that numbers after the privatization of these public sector banks, we just imagine may increase to tenfold if we are not able to provide them adequate cheap credit to them. I mean, so what subsidized credit to them. So you may be knowing that what is the interest rate we charge when we lend money to the agriculture sector. That is subsidized from the RBI and that is coming to the NABARD. Okay, and NABARD will be giving that money to nationalized bank. So effective interest rate is less than 6% if they borrow from the nationalized banks. And if the same amount, if they're borrowing from the money lender, they will be paying 96%. So if we privatize this nationalized banks, then who will give loan to this agriculture sector, rural India, okay, or the small scale industries, or the other priority sectors, that you just think about that. That is the biggest question mark. Despite keeping that priority sector lending compulsory to the all banking sector, all scheduled commercial banks, we found that private sectors and foreign banks are not catering that need. So this will be answering your question.
Yes, sir, absolutely right. Because of the privatization of the public sector banks, the entire rural economy will be collapsed.
Yeah.
And apart from the micro, small, and medium enterprises, they will also die.
Yes, yes.
They will not survive in coming days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Only the impact of privatization, it will be positive on the big industrialists and big industries.
Yes, yes.
But the priority sector and rest of the areas which is concerned with the rural economy, it will be collapse.
Yeah.
And whatever was the purpose of late Prime Minister Srimati Indira Gandhi, that is nationalization of the commercial bank, is to provide the loans to the priority sector, that is agriculture and allied activities.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it is very bad situation from the point of our economics teacher.
Yeah, yeah.
Is anybody? But Dr. Garaje sir, I'm very happy that you have covered the entire things and you have explained in a very simple language, and all the participants definitely they will came to know whether there should be privatization of the commercial bank, public sector banks or not, because it is a very big question before the participant. And it is a very crucial situation in a coming future.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I tried my best, but still I hope that if some of the participants come openly and ask me questions, it doesn't matter. You ask me in Marathi language, I'm Maharashtrian only. You can ask me in Hindi language also. So by asking the question, you will be increasing my knowledge.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
मराठी मधून विचारा, हिंदी मधून किंवा इंग्लिश.
या बिलकुल बिलकुल. मराठीत पण विचारा, हिंदीत पण विचारा, काही हरकत नाही.
Sir, there is no question because you have covered the entire aspect and student understand everything.
Maybe that is the reason, or maybe the students are too much shy to ask, or
maybe.
Or maybe they are completely silent behind the screen. Online lectures like that mode, maybe that can be the also. We knows very well.
Yeah. Okay, Gore sir. One more question, I think, in the chat box. This is from Tejas Patil.
Yeah. Sir, how
government can reduce willful default in repayment of loan?
Yeah. Now look here, if you just see that default loan, whatever we talk about it, in all that sectors, agriculture sector, small scale industries, export sector, all priority sector plus the non-priority sector, if we see, you will find that maximum default cases are coming from the what? Non-priority sectors, not only the priority sectors. The big industries are involved. Their default cases are very huge amount. You may remember that just 2 years back, we have waived the loan of the farmers before the election. Almost 2 lakh crore rupees of the loans of the farmers, government of India has waived. But if you just see that some of the private sectors, they are biggest defaulter. Their default amount is, you can just imagine that one sector, one private sector, big industries, having the default of what more than 2 lakh crore rupees of the default cases was there. So whether we should bail them out or not, that is the question will be coming in your mind. Look, if we just see the all over the world in the banking sectors, if such kind of the frauds are coming, and if the government is not bailing them out, then the common public like you and me will suffer, and the economy also will suffer. That is what we found that Merrill Lynch Bank that has been bailed out by the US government in the 2008 that banking fraud situation. A similar kind of a situation you can see in India also. That ICICI Bank, which was almost actually collapsible situation in the 90s. The RBI has bailed them out because if that private bank has collapsed, so you will find that many depositors and all the other people depending on such banks will be going to be suffered badly, and the economy may be coming into the problem. That is why whenever such kind of the fraud happens, default happens, so government will be all over the world, not only in India, all over the world, they will be coming forward and will be bailing them out, whether it is a nationalized bank or the private bank or even foreign bank. Foreign banks, it is a different case because that shareholding is in foreign country only. But government never want that that should affect the economy badly. Okay, so that is why every time such kind of the default cases that whatever the NPA is there is bailed out from the government, the respective government of the country. And it is needed, and that is economic support that is why we found that government will be coming. And now coming to the point, willful default in the repayment of the loans and all, we have made such kind of acts, legal acts and all. Okay, we tried to capture these biggest defaulters like Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and all. The thing is that our legal system is very lengthy. By the end of that getting the result of that particular thing, we may find that that culprit may have died. That is the reason. If we improve our legal system, that may be more justifiable. You must have heard about that. Delay in justice is no justice. That kind of a situation is happening here. So if we can find out some speedy recovery of the loan amount from this defaulter, that will be better. So you must have also seen that the Bank Securitization Act actually is helping us to capture the property of all the defaulters, and bank has got the authority to sell that property and recover their default loan from such kind of things. So definitely we are in the that process to find out the solution. Not only we, all over the world, respective governments are finding out. So how we can stop these willful defaulters. Yeah, I hope that they just got some kind of the
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, please, anybody? I want some answer. The question should come in Marathi also. Questions are not coming in Marathi?
Okay, okay, fine. Okay, Gore sir.
Okay, sir.
Please proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Once again, it's very insightful lecture, and definitely will help all of us to know the area, one of the area in banking sector. So formally to say vote of thanks, to propose a vote of thanks, I request Professor Rupali Devekar Madam to propose the vote.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to all of you. Myself, Rupali Devekar, faculty of Department of Economics. It's my great privilege to propose the vote of thanks today's 1 week online intercollegiate lecture series. First of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to today's expert, Dr. Ravikiran R Garaje, sir, Associate Professor, KC College, Churchgate, Mumbai, for accepting our invitation and covering all the aspects of today's topic. It will definitely help us in future, sir. I am also thankful to our Vice Principal, Dr. Anuja Bapat Madam, to her encouragement and motivation to organize this program. I am thankful to our Head of the Department and BOS member, University of Mumbai, Dr. Avinash Shendre sir, for his support in every aspect in conducting this program. I am also thankful my teacher colleague, Dr. Gore sir. I express my sincere thanks to various college participant students. With the permission of today's chairperson, I declare that the today's session is over. Thank you so much.
Gore sir, you want to give some instruction to the student?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So first, I will thank to your college principal, your vice principal, Bapat madam, Chandre sir, and faculty of the college giving me this opportunity to speak on such important topic. So actually, you have given me chance to learn also. Okay. Because if I am going to prepare for such kind of a topic, means I will be learning it. So that chance you have given me. So thank you for such kind of a chance to me. The thing is
Thank
that
you,
now,
Dr. Ravi, sir.
yeah, thank you, sir. And the thing is that what I want to say that speaker series what we have started long back, somewhere around 1997 we started it. So some gap was there. Every year we will be calling almost what 10 to 15 speakers depending upon that. So look here, online method, there won't be any problem calling the speakers on various latest topic. There won't be any problem. But when you physically, when it comes offline lectures and all, there will be some issues will come. The thing is that that number of participants should be there. Your principal should be allowing the other classes to be what held up for such kind of speaker series, etc. That will be there. So no doubt at all, this will be helping our economic student, not only economic student, overall general student, because they have lots of questions and they wanted to know that how our economic subject matter will be applicable to current happenings in day-to-day things. They wanted to know every time and they want to relate our theories and knowledge of economics to that particular things. For example, today only one of my students in classroom has asked me how that Russia attacking that Ukraine will be affecting our economy. Such kind of the question once comes, so teacher will be encouraged to answer whether that can be affecting to your economy or not, and how it will be affecting that all economic parameters he will be trying to find out and will be trying to explain. So such kind of the things we find that regular lecture will not be possible. When we keep such kind of speaker series where you will be motivated to ask varieties of the questions, and that should happen. Actually, look here, that guest teacher, don't think that he will be a great person and like that. No, not at all. He is just like a little bit, uh, maybe a little bit knowledgeable than you. But you also will be having what equivalent knowledge with that kind of speakers, and that is why if you have some kind of doubt in your mind, you should clear that. With discussion, we may get the solution. So that is the suggestion I want to give all the my student friend and participants. Yeah, this is the thing I want to say to the participant.
Yes, sir, definitely. So for participants, just 2-3 things I want to instruct you, that all of you need to attend all the lectures for the 6 days. Okay, then
That will be definitely optimizing their knowledge.
yes.
And what important thing is that you should just clarify your all the doubts. That is the most important thing. You already got luckily what that all the topics. So what are the topics are there? On that topic, you beforehand only you create your questions and all. You maybe take as a challenge to ask your resource person to the questions. That will be the better idea. Yeah, please continue, sir.
Yes. Yes, about the certificate, that's what I told you, that if you complete your 6 days as like a course, you should do it. All the lecture series, all the 6 lectures, if you continuously attend, then afterwards you will get the e-certificate there. And one thing, I will post the feedback form each and every day after the every lecture session, and then you need to fill up immediately. Okay, so that your attendance will be recorded over there, and so it will be very easy to give you the certificate. So these two things which are very important: attending the all lectures and filling the feedback regularly. These two are the most important
Yeah,
instructions.
and don't know that feedback should be favorable only. You just give your correct opinion, so that your organization will get the chance to improve in future. Okay, so don't shy away if I am bad in my lectures. Just make that comment clear cut. Okay, so that we can improve in future. Yeah, please continue.
Yes.
So
Shendra sir? Sir, you are mute. Yes.
Yeah.
Shall I put the feedback here in the chat box link or?
I think 3-4 students they have left before the program, but it will be better you are going to post here only in the program. So those who have attended right from the beginning, they will be the beneficiaries. So you put the feedback form here only.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.